All right, brother. What's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin. All right, Kevin. How do you feel about racism in America?
It's outdated.
It's outdated.
Yeah.
So that meaning what?
I don't know. I think we should be getting past that.
We should be getting past it. Okay. Second question. Well, then I guess that means you're not racist, right?
I don't like to think I am, at least.
Okay. Do you know anybody, whether your friend or family member, that is racist?
Yeah, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to say who it is, but do you do anything to try to combat that when you find that they're being racist?
Not openly, I suppose. Not very confrontational, but I look down on it, I'd say.
Okay. Last question. What do you think? Whose responsibility do you think it is to try to end this racism in this world?
Everyone.
Everyone?
Sure.
All right, brother. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, so what's your name, brother?
Chase.
Chase. All right, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you.
My brother's name.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, quick question. Be as honest as you can. What do you think about racism in America in 2017? What are your thoughts?
I'm going to be honest.
Be very honest.
Until it started becoming more of a prevalent subject, I probably didn't think it was such a big deal at first. But, I mean, I just watched something maybe 5 minutes ago. One of my friend's moms, she's black. She had, like, some issues with an officer, like, 3 blocks away from her apartment complex. You know, he didn't believe she lived in the neighborhood and shit like that. And that kind of just blew my mind. I guess being part of the majority as a white person in the country, you don't see it too much. But I definitely, it was a little bit more heart-wrenching from one of my close friends to have gone through it, you know what I mean? So while I wouldn't have thought it was a big deal maybe a couple years ago, as of the last 2 or 3, it's probably seeming to be a bit more of an issue.
That's fair. What do you think has revved it up, or you said it's a prevalent issue now, what do you think has made it more prevalent as opposed to prior years? Is there any particular thing that made it more prevalent now as opposed to maybe 10, 15 years ago?
I don't know if it's necessarily like any worse than it might have been before I realized it as much. I think it's just that maybe people are talking about it more. I don't know exactly. Maybe the instances are like caught on film more. Yeah.
Do you think that might have something to do with it?
Maybe it's the social media all coming together a lot more. Everyone can see, you know what I mean? Like, if it was 5 years ago and I didn't have Facebook or something like that, I would have never known what happened to my mom's friend. Or my friend's mom. Right,
and so another thing you said real quick, you said it was a little bit more, you said being part of the white majority, quote unquote, in America, it's kind of far removed from you, but when it happens to a close friend, then that makes it more real. It makes it more real.
It come more home to you.
Quick question, you don't have to say who they are, but what's up, brother? You don't have to say who they are, and I know that's your ride right there, right? But quick question, I know you don't have to say who they are, but do you have anybody in your family or your close circle of friends that you think might be racist?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you don't have to say who they are, but when and if they say something racist around you, whether it be calling somebody a nigger or anything like that, what do you do, if anything, to combat or try to contrast that? Like, do you combat that at all, or do you tell them anything, or do you just let them say what they say?
I'd say if honestly it was circumstantial. If it like crossed a major line to me, I'd probably not want to be part of whatever discussion was going on anymore. But of course, if it's elders in my family or something, you know, I almost feel like it's not really my place to tell them. It's almost like their peers should be telling them, someone that's their age.
So an elder in your family, if they say you don't feel like it's your place to tell them anything?
I feel like, yeah, almost essentially, like that's the feeling you get, whether it's right or not. That's the kind of feeling, you know, you don't want to disrespect your elders. And
last question, because I know you got to go. Is there a way to fix racism in America, change it, or is it just a perpetual cycle that will keep going on and on and on? Is there any way that we could change it?
I don't think it's more of like one answer as it is a lot of little things that need to be changed, and then hopefully it won't exist anymore.
You have an idea of maybe like where we could start? How we can start? Where does it start? Where does changing it start?
I don't know, man. That's a good question, though. It's definitely one that needs an answer. I wish I had it for you.
Hey, man, you've done more than you know. Thank you, brother.
Take it easy.
Okay, what's your name?
My name is Brianna.
Brianna. Okay, Brianna. I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. Quick question. What do you think about racism in America?
What do I think about racism in America?
Racism in America. Just be completely brutally honest. Don't worry about who's recording. Don't worry about this is to try to help. Just give your honest answer.
Am I racist? No, I'm not racist. I think people like to play the race card a lot, though. we come into situations like that a lot where we're not racist, but you know, if we disagree on something, it immediately says, "Oh, I'm black" or something, you know?
Right.
But yeah, we're here for everyone, you know?
Okay, so you're saying that sometimes you're not racist, but a lot of times some black people might pull the race card and try to make it inflammatory.
Absolutely.
I could definitely understand that sentiment. Quick question. You say you're not racist, but is anyone in your family or your close circle of friends racist that you think, or have they displayed instances of race? Yes. You don't have to say who they are, but what do you do, if anything, to confront or combat that ideology when you're confronted with that?
I bleed red, you bleed red.
We both bleed red, right? Okay, cool. And last question. What do you think we can do to try to solve it? Is it possible to solve it, or is this just an ongoing, perpetual cycle? Is there anything we can do to try to come to a mutual agreement in this country, particularly?
It's like everyone, man. We all gotta be friends. Just stick together.
All right, cool. Thank you.
No problem, man.
By the way, what's your name?
Jack.
Jack. All right, Jack. What do you think about racism in America?
I think that whole word is like misunderstood by pretty much everybody.
What do you mean by misunderstood?
Well, I think that
What are we misunderstanding about it?
I think it's all right to have pride in your race. You know what I mean? I don't think it's all right to think that you should have power over another race. But I believe every race is entitled to have pride in their culture, to celebrate their culture, who they are, and to have as their main goal what's best for them and their people. You know what I mean? I believe everybody thinks in those terms, whether they want to admit it or not.
Now that's interesting. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to take too much of your time, but what you said is very interesting, and I've heard this before. And okay, I guess what I say is, do you agree that there are people who are racist as we believe it to be, as opposed to just being prideful in the race? Do you think that there are people in this world that think that their race is better and that they should look down on others? Do you think that that's a reality?
They definitely exist, but I believe the word racist triggers an image of that person. But I don't think that person I feel like that's a very small number of people that actually think, like, that's a cartoonish villain that just thinks that somebody's lesser solely because of their skin color.
So you think racism has been misunderstood as just being an oppressive form of people as opposed to just having pride in your race?
Well, I believe there's a confusion with racial, like, the way the races interact. In America, we have, like, so many different races here, and the minorities are quickly becoming the majorities. You know, like, white people aren't birthing people as fast as the other races are. So, like, we're really seeing things come to a head with, like, populations kind of evening out, you know, growing and, like, getting a larger voice, you know. And I think that there's, like, a lot of confusion, you know, like, there's a lot of people that don't want to offend, you know, and they go a little too far in trying to not offend. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I feel that some people coddle in their attempt to, like, show how not racist they are, and they end up they talk to people of different races as if they're babies. You know what I mean? And I think that's lame. That's lame. Called being fake.
It's fake, and it's not really tackling the issue at hand, really, right?
Yeah, and I believe a lot of it comes from, like, I think white people mention these things, like, I'm being real delicate with what I say even right now. You know what I mean?
Understandable.
I believe
but just be as real as you can, though.
I think there's a stigma attached to white people who even bring up this topic. You know what I mean? I see it a lot online and stuff, like, especially with, like, a lot of girls and stuff. He's talking about that kind of thing, like, where, you know, white men don't have, like, they don't get to have an opinion on this. And I think that's literally, like, we're just taking it back to, like, when things were not right. Like, oh, you are this color, that means your life experience is this, and I know it because, you know, because of that or whatever. You don't get to speak on that.
So you think there's somewhat of a hesitancy for white people now to speak out due to maybe the possible ramifications involved?
Yeah, but I don't even know if there's something that needs to be spoken out about, man. I think people just need to understand that it's okay, that, like, their races are different. You know, we are different, but that's what makes us unique. You know, that's what culture is. You know what I mean?
I agree. A couple more questions, because you have a real unique perspective, and like I said, I don't want to take too much of your time, but what do you think about interracial marriages and children?
I believe that's up to I believe if you believe you love somebody, if you feel like you're in love and they love you back, then you should be with them.
You're not against that, being as though you spoke on having the unique races that have their own race? You know, because I
believe that at the core of a race, there should be a desire to continue your race, to see them exists. You know, I would be, if every white person in the world suddenly wanted to bang like anybody that wasn't white, I would have a problem with that. And not because I think white people are better, but because I am white. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I want there to be more of us. You know what I mean? I understand that everyone's contributed to the world, you know, and I believe we're of value.
That's fair. That's very fair. Last two questions, and I promise I'm gonna let you go back to skate. Okay. So now, we do understand that there maybe has been a misconception or over-sensationalization of racism, but you are aware of things that did occur, such as like slavery and hanging and lynching and the segregation, like the black only and the white only. You are aware of that, right? And that, and
absolutely.
Even the fact that like for instance, black people were not allowed to go to stay in school as white people in the 40s. This was not long ago, maybe 60 years ago.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that era? What do you think about that era? Because that was a little bit different than just having pride in your race. That was actually going out of your way to, not you personally, but these were white people going out of their way to seemingly oppress black people just for the color of their skin. How do you feel about that?
I think it was wrong, but I think that we as a society recognized that and ended it. You know what I mean? There's societies today that still have segregation, that still have like open racism, where like, you know, especially like in Asia and the Middle East, you'll see countries where it's like, if you're like I don't know all types of races there, but I know that there's like a big beef between like certain types of like Middle Eastern descents over there, and
you're
like
right.
if you even see each other, like you're gonna fight. You know what I mean?
You're right.
And so like, I feel like we've set this example. I mean, maybe not just America. I'm not like a genius of history. I don't know everything, but I believe we set the standard that it was not all right to have slaves. That like that's not what civilized societies do. Civilized societies treat people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Martin Luther King said that.
He did. And how do you have anyone in your family that, now you don't have to name them, but do you have anyone in your family or your circle of friends that you think is racist in the traditional term?
No, absolutely not.
No? How should white people, okay, if you don't, how should white people who do have a family or friend who is openly racist or speaks against blacks or Arabs or Hispanics or Asians, how should a white person who has a family or friend that speaks like that, how should you tackle that? How should you handle that? Or should you just completely let them speak that way?
That's tough, man. I think a lot of those people that actually do think that, you know, I think a lot of them may have that opinion because of something traumatic that happened to them. You know, like I have met people that were like, you know, were robbed or some shit, and like now they hate all black people, you know, and like it's a sensitive subject. I think it depends on the person, you know. Sometimes there are those old rednecks that they're never going to change their idea, but you know what? Most of those people are old rednecks, you know.
And so it's not, so you're saying it's not really practical, because I mean, if you think about it, like anybody can get robbed by anybody, and don't you think it's do you think it's fair to just, in other words, to judge a whole group of people based on your interaction or your personal involvement with one or a few of them? Is that fair?
Not necessarily. Race-wise, no. Maybe religion. If you meet somebody that's in like a Scientologist, you know, I think you can judge other Scientologists based on
because they all have the same belief.
That's an ideology.
Okay.
I'm talking about things that you were born with. You know what I mean? So groups of people based on skin color, birth defects, anything like that, I don't believe. I think that they're to be judged by who they are, and completely, at least character and how you interact with them should only be judged on who they are. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that like you should find every girl attractive. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's that too, but like, I believe that, you know, until you show me otherwise, like, you're my equal. You know?
For sure. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
Okay, what is your name, sir?
Brad?
Brad. Okay, Brad. Now, this question, I just want you to be as honest as possible. What do you feel about racism in America? What do you feel about it? Is it a real thing? Is it over sensationalized? If it's real, what do you feel about it?
I think it's real. I think it's gotten worse.
You think it's gotten worse since what? Since maybe like the Civil Rights era, or since when? Where is your point of reference as far as where it's gotten worse, or just in the last couple years?
Let's say it's gotten worse in probably the last 4 years. It appears to have gotten ramped up. Maybe even longer than that. Maybe the last 8 years or so.
What do you think? Now, when you say 8 years, one thing comes to my head, but I'll ask you, what do you think was the catalyst to make it get worse in the last maybe 4 to 8 years? What do you think?
catalyst to make it worse. I think the Obama administration coming into office.
Right.
I don't believe he did a lot to help push forward race relations. I think the disparagement between the Democrats and the Republicans have driven a wedge between not only race but socioeconomic classes as well. I don't think either side is really helping it out. I don't think it's in their best interest to help it out. I think keeping the tension between races and economic classes is to their benefit. It's easier to incite a movement if people react emotionally as opposed to intellectually. As long as you can keep the rhetoric up and at an all-time high, people don't look at the facts. They have a tendency to react as opposed to understand.
Okay. So you feel that, just in summary of what I'm gathering, you feel that the Obama administration didn't necessarily create the conflict, but it kind of revved it up in the fact that now here's a black man in office and there's certain maybe responsibilities that he should have as far as bringing forth progression, and then as opposed to the progression, it seems like there's been rhetoric and there's been things that's made it inflammatory as opposed to really tackling it.
I think what I had hoped with, I didn't vote for Obama.
Okay.
Strictly because his politics aren't my politics.
Understandable.
But what I had hoped when he did come into office is he would have at least been able to bring our community together a lot better from a race standpoint.
Right.
This is my boss.
Oh, understandable. Okay, what's your name?
Kimberly.
Kimberly. Okay, Kimberly, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. What do you think about racism in America?
I think that's horrible. I think that there's a lot of it, and people don't want to mention it, but there is still a lot of racism.
Okay, so you think for sure that for the people who say, "Oh no, just get over it," that's not true. You're over exaggerating. You're overreacting. For sure it does exist in America, right?
It does.
It does.
Definitely.
Okay, now let me ask you a quick question. Does anyone in your close circle of friends or your family, would you say that any of them are racist, or have they displayed racist behavior?
I would.
You don't have to say who it is. I know they're close to you, but you would say that somebody in your family or close circle of friends is racist, right?
They're mostly my older family, but yes.
Okay, and what do you do, if anything, to combat or confront that ideology when they say these things around you, or they try to get you to adhere to the ideology? What do you do, if anything?
My grandparents are kind of senile, so most of the things they do or say are because of their past when they were younger or whatever. But, I mean, I don't go around them very much.
Okay. What do you think, maybe somebody who has a friend or a close family member that's young, that's Caucasian, quote unquote white, what do you think they should do to try to, should they do anything to try to combat that when they hear that? Or should they just let their family members just say whatever they want?
I think they should say something.
They should say something?
It's wrong, you know?
It's wrong?
Not right.
Okay, lastly, what do you think we can do, if anything, or whose job is it, if anyone, to try to rectify the situation of racism in America? Is it curable, or is
I think it's everybody's job. I think it's really parents. Parents have to work on their kids and treat them to do right and to treat people right, how you would want to be treated, and that's what I instill in my son. I have a 3-year-old, and he does not know colors or whatever. He knows the rainbow or whatever, but
right.
He doesn't know black or white or
so
anything.
What do you think, maybe if your son comes to you in 5th grade or 6th grade, because that's around the time I started learning about race, what would happen if your son came to you and he said he heard about the N-word or something like that? How would you combat that?
It's just wrong.
Just tell him it's wrong?
Tell him it's wrong, and you don't treat anybody differently than yourself.
Okay, thank you so much, okay? Have a good day, all right? All right. What's your name?
John.
John. Okay, John, what do you think about racism in America?
I think it's fucked up. I'm surprised that it's still a problem, and we got to be a lot more proactive if we're going to do anything about it.
Okay, now when you say we and proactive, what do you mean? We meaning
everybody.
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 And how can we be proactive to change it?
guess if you see it, do something. Say something.
Do you know anybody in your family or close circle of friends that
Yeah, my mom's side of the family are
very, very
bigots
racist
all the way.
What do you do to, thank you for being honest about that, what do you do to combat or confront that?
Actually, those bastards aren't in my life anymore, so I don't have to put up with it.
I give you dap on that, man. All right, God bless you, man.
That's a bust, man. Good luck.
All right, see you later. All right, so what do you think about racism in America? 2017. First thoughts.
Think about racism in America.
What are your thoughts? Does it exist? Does it not exist? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it exists, but I also think people focus too much on it. I think people need to not care so much about it, man. Just see each other as people. You know, I think the focus, the hyper focus on it, creates more division.
So what race do you think? Let's just say if it were just black and white people, what race do you think is over sensationalizing it or hyper focusing on it more?
I think both sides do. I think both sides play victim. You know, I think both sides do.
Okay. Two more questions. Do you have anyone in your family or close circle of friends that you think may be racist? You don't have to say who they are, but maybe
racist, like
maybe an older person,
racist,
or
prejudice,
or prejudice, or speak down.
I think we all have some ingrained form of prejudice, but there's nobody that I know that is racist.
Okay. Well, last question. What do you think if somebody has a person in their family or close circle of friends that's racist or prejudiced to the extent where they look down on another group of people for the color of their skin? What do you think that you should do to combat that, or should we just let them continue to think like that?
I don't think you can force somebody to see how you want them to see. I think people go on their own experience. I think you can educate the children. That's how I think you can make a change. I don't think you can change somebody else's perception, because if you just butt heads with people, it's just going to create more conflict, you know? I mean, I'm not saying racism should go, like, if you see somebody being openly racist, that you shouldn't step in and help that person. But I just mean on a everyday level, you can't convince somebody to see it how you see it. They have to experience it for themselves. They have to open their mind.
So you said with the kids, that you think the kids growing up are really if there's anybody who's going to stop this kind of perpetual cycle, it might be the children.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's all evolution, man. I mean, I think the kids are where future lies for all problems, really, and acceptance, man. Acceptance, tolerance, teaching that to children. I think over time that will help.
Okay, thank you.
All right, buddy.
What's your name? Shanice? Okay, Shanice, what do you think about racism in America? Be honest. Don't be politically correct. Be very honest.
I gotta go though.
You gotta go? Okay.
Well, I'll answer it. I think it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous?
Yeah, I come from South Africa, so it's way worse, I think, in a way, in a sense, than it is in America.
So you think it's way worse in you're from South Africa, it's way worse out there?
Yeah, it's like, it's gonna come to like another war in our country, maybe. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Wow, so is it, because somebody else from South Africa said it's black people are oppressing white people out there. That's not true? Or is
it is.
So it's like reverse?
Yeah.
It's reversed out there?
Yeah.
And to the point where it's almost going to come like a war, right?
Yeah.
Same as out here. How long have you been out here?
Only a month.
Only a month?
Yeah.
What brought you out here?
I'm working.
Okay, well, welcome to America. It is, you're going to see, it's crazy. It's the exact opposite out here.
Yeah.
But last question, do you have any family? Well, you're from South Africa, so maybe it's different, but do you have any family or friends that are racist against maybe black people? You don't have to say who they are.
No.
Nobody?
No.
But you've seen racism against you out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah? How do you, like, just real quick, explain to me, because I've never heard of that. Explain, how are they racist against you guys? What are they, like, in what ways would you say it's racist out there?
They say that we get, we have more opportunities, like we're more privileged than they are, but right now it's reversed, because like the white people are basically going into poverty. But yeah, they have a whole thing against us, because we have this thing called the apartheid era.
Right.
If you ever want to go look up the history.
The apartheid, yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Also, that's why they're upset, and that's what. Okay, so in other words, that's my last question before you got to go. Is there a way to fix this because now we're not just, I wanted to talk about America, but you're from South Africa, so we see it's all over the world in different ways. Is there a way that we can fix this and come together, or is it just going to be forever like this?
I think if, I know it's the older generations that are polluting the younger minds because they're so angry about what happened. So if the older generations maybe could give that a let go and see that the world is changing and we got to change with it, yeah, maybe.
And so maybe it's the youth who need to change it, right? Maybe?
Yeah, the youth needs to change it.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, okay?
Welcome.
Have a good day. Okay, what's your name?
Patrick.
Patrick, okay, I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. Okay, so my question is, and I want you to be as honest as possible, what do you think about racism in America in 2017?
I think it's the elephant in the room that everyone's afraid to talk about, but that we need to talk about.
Okay,
I think it's one of the biggest problems in America is that we've got a whole generation that's racist as fuck, and the generations under them, younger folks, are like, hey man, people are people. They don't matter.
Right.
But there's this generation that's still in power, that's still kind of above, like older than my generation, like basically my parents' generation and everybody's grandparents. And they're still clinging to this pre-civil rights, 1940 something, racist as hell. If you've got different colored skin, then you're worthless as a person, and it's bullshit. But it's also hard to have a dialogue about it because those people are so set in their ways, and it's so deeply ingrained in them that you bring it up, and I've tried to bring it up with my own mother. She's racist. She comes from small town East Texas. And she says, "Oh well, no, I'm not. I'm living in the modern world." But they're not living in the modern world. They're living in some sort of crazy fantasy land where they can be judgmental assholes and somehow still feel good about themselves at night. And I don't know what the solution is. I mean, part of me says, be patient and wait it out, and hope that generation will just die off and we can get on with all being just people. But that's not really a right now solution. That's kind of a someday solution. I mean, I got friends all over the spectrum: black, white, Hispanic, Asian, gay, straight, trans, and I've always tried to make a difference on a personal level instead of jumping to conclusions, instead of profiling, instead of stereotyping, judge people by what they do, instead of any of this kind of preconceived bullshit. So,
wow, that's deep, and you actually answered a number of the questions. I was only going to ask a few questions. You answered most of them, but I just want to expound, if I may, quickly on a few things you said. The first thing you said that I noticed was that a number of the people who are holding on to these preconceived notions, or kind of prehistoric notions also, you said they're in positions of power.
Yeah. Like, they're all through the government. They're all the CEOs. They're all the VPs and all the executives and all the suit and tie crowd.
Right.
Like, they're judgmental as hell. But if you go down to like a more blue collar level, at the blue collar level, we're all working the same shit job for the same shit hours and getting the same shitty pay. So we're all in it together. So there's a little bit more, I guess there's a little less racism once you drop down from the snotty rich people in control of everything level.
So going a little further into that, then, if these quote-unquote racist people are in the highest positions of authority, which they are, you're agreeing to that.
I would call the entire Trump administration a bunch of Nazis.
So wait, before I ask my question, then, what would you say to the people let's just say, because I'm black, right? So obviously, and a number of people have told me, well, you're being paranoid. There's no such thing as racism anymore. Slavery ended over 150 years ago, and there's no reason for you to complain and just pick yourself up by the bootstraps. What would you say as a white man to that, to another white person who tells black people that?
I would say that's a weak argument. I would say if you look at the facts, black people in America have gotten the short end of the stick for so long that I don't know that the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps thing is possible. I think the whole system is rigged. Unfortunately, I mean, like, I've benefited from some of that. I come from a position of privilege just by virtue of my skin color. And I can't really, you know, like reverse time or something. I've been given certain advantages just being a white guy in America, which isn't fair. The whole system is set up to where, you know, if you're black, you're starting out a step behind just by being black.
In 2017?
In 2017, not in 1920, not in 1940, but in 2017, I think it's still wildly unbalanced. Like, it is. Like, more people need to be talking about it, and it doesn't need to be these little cutesy slogans where, like, you say Black Lives Matter and someone says, oh, well, all lives matter.
Right.
The response is, well, okay, yes, all lives matter. Right now, young black men are pretty much an endangered species. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about all lives. Get over yourself. That's very thinly veiled racism. Very thinly, like, I'm pretending to not be racist, but
right. It's almost a condescending remark to say, right?
And it dismisses the whole problem without actually addressing the problem. I mean, we've got vast income disparity. We've got housing disparity. There's prejudice built into the banking system. Like, it's all over. I don't know much that I can do to change the whole system, but I would say it starts one person at a time.
Now, you've probably said the most impactful statements in this short period of time that I've gotten so far from a number of people that I've gotten.
Which kind of sucks.
Which kind of sucks.
Kind of part of the problem.
Which is very much part of the problem, and I want to tell you that I appreciate the fact that you said that. My name is Joshua. So very nice to meet you, by the way. But and I appreciate your sentiments and your honesty, because really what I find is that in doing these documentaries, when I reach out to people with different perspectives and who physically look different than me,
do they dodge the question?
They dodge the question a lot of the times, or they kind of do that thinly veiled thing that you were talking about. But my intention really is to let someone see this film who may look like you or come from the same background as you and might be afraid to address that elephant in the room that you said, and they say, wow, maybe this guy's correct. Because what happens is, me as a black person, I can say exactly what you said,
and you'll get a totally different reaction.
Yeah, and they'll say I'm complaining. They'll say I'm making it up. I'll say, I can say things like there's still a disparaging amount of black people who are being killed, and a disproportionate amount. I can say the banking system is rigged. I can say the highest people in authority are enforcing ideologies of white supremacy. I say that all the time, but they're like, be quiet, shut up, you're complaining, you know, just pull yourself up. And they'll give me examples like, well, Obama made it. They'll say things like that, and they'll say things like, again, all lives matter, which I don't deny, but then when I'm saying, were all lives, you know, did all lives go through what the black lives have gone through?
Yeah,
so
it's not the same.
And it's not the same. So I do appreciate you saying that. A number of people still will deny it, even though you said it. They'll feel like I told you to say it, or that they'll say, oh, this white guy, you know what they'll say?
I said it of my own free will.
And you know what they might say? That's good. And they'll say, well, this white guy is just trying to suck up to black people, or, you know, you have no we're at Starbucks. We're at Starbucks. We're just having this conversation. And so with that being said, I just want to ask two more questions that were on my mind, because you really are blowing my mind, honestly, the fact that you said so much in a short period of time. But you said you're not quite sure how to tackle it. My question is a two-part question on this one. One, would you say, if you don't know how to tackle it, would you say maybe it's then warranted that black people should do what they can to try to tackle it? Because in other words, if we know that this is...
It's got to come from both sides.
It's got to come from both sides. It's got to be black and white people tackling it?
You got to have people on both sides willing to look at some of the hard truths, and you got to have people on both sides who are willing to reach out. You know, it's like Congress. We've got a bunch of Republican assholes, and we've got a bunch of Democrats who are afraid to stand up for themselves, and nobody reaches out either way, and so the Republicans just run crazy. Like, you can't change something as large as the American system of life, or the American dream, without it coming from all directions at once. And I don't know what the tipping point is, but I hope to see it. Like, I don't know when. I don't know, other than, like I said, trying to be personable.
Right. So, would you say then, though, but you also said something that, because I'm taking mental notes, one of the other things you said was that either inadvertently or subconsciously or just through happenstance, you've benefited from some of the hierarchies that have been set in place.
Yeah.
Now, this is what a lot of black people refer to as quote-unquote white privilege.
Yeah.
And that's another thing when black people coin that term white privilege to describe what you're talking about, the inadvertent privileges that you get. The opposing side says, there's no such thing as white privilege.
That's
so
bullshit.
What? It's bullshit.
It's bullshit. You start out with certain advantages. Unfortunately, in America, a lot of it's based on skin color. Like
I'll give you an example. Like maybe when a black man such as myself, I can have this has happened to me before. I'm driving a nice car. I have my registration.
You got pulled over for driving while being black?
In other words. But again, I can't say that because nobody believes me.
Multiple times.
Right, but my point is, when I get pulled over, there's an inadvertent, subconscious fear that falls over me due to my personal experiences, due to my friends' experiences, due to what I see on the news of people getting shot. And when I talk to Caucasian people, they don't possess that same fear. A lot of them will even talk back to the police officer, like, "Oh, what'd you pull me over for?" It's like that small thing, that seemingly minuscule thing.
It's a big thing, though. It's a big thing. Like, you shouldn't have to be in fear for your life driving around the corner to go to the store to,
right?
You know, but
so my question: what should how do I phrase this? Now, I guess I'll get back to what I was talking about as far as you benefiting from it personally. Should then white people be willing to maybe forfeit some of those privileges, or if not forfeit, should they be more vocal about extending those same privileges to black people?
I think they should definitely be more vocal. I don't know of anybody alive who would forfeit a privilege.
Right.
Especially if they're not even aware that privilege
exists.
Because there's a lot of people who are, you know, see through Casper the Ghost White.
Right.
And they won't admit that they've had an easier time of it.
Now, is that just an ignorance or a willful ignorance? Is it meaning, in other words, are they turning the other way?
Person. I've seen some people where it's just ignorance, and I've seen some people where it's clearly willful ignorance, and it's clearly buying into that kind of like subtle racism of you know, oh, you got problems, we all got problems.
Right.
It doesn't answer the question.
Right, and it seems as though I've also seen where, as a black person or black people, we bring up issues, and then the opposing side tries to either minimize, trivialize, belittle, or they'll just say, hey, you know, all people have been through things, and they'll kind of camouflage it by saying, well, you know, these people had this done to them, and why are you complaining? What makes you, in other words, white people will say, what makes your struggle unique as a black person? Why are you complaining so much when everybody's been through something? What do you say to that?
They like to bring up the whole like, oh, well, the Irish, when they came here, they were really mistreated in Boston. I'm like, they weren't shipped here in chains.
They weren't, and they were indentured servants.
Yeah. Or nothing. They weren't, you know, raped or assaulted or killed for no damn good reason.
Right.
They might have had a little bit harder time. But,
right.
I mean, go to Boston. How many Irish are in Boston?
Right.
So, I don't know. I wish I had a better answer.
No, your answers are very, very revealing.
Gotta get back to work. I hope I'm not.
No, you're not. You're not. You're not. I'll see you later. Thank you so much, okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right, no problem. So what's your name?
Rich.
Rich. All right, Rich. Honestly as you can, don't think about the fact that I'm asking you this, but what do you think about racism in America in 2017?
Well, racism in America in 2017, I mean, honestly, I think now nothing's really changed. It's just the situation hasn't changed. It's just more the awareness of it, really.
So you think it's still prevalent? It's still here, a reality?
Yeah.
What do you say about the people who tell black people, oh, get over it, you're being paranoid, there's no slavery ended a long time ago, there's no such thing as racism? Is that true?
I feel like there are people like that, but I feel like I guess I myself have not experienced that as much because I'm white, but I have not seen that as often as it's been claimed.
Right. Like what I mean is like the argument that some people say, you know, hey, just get over it. Is that a valid claim to tell black people to just get over it?
No, I don't think it's that. I think what really should be happening is people just say, I understand that every person has their struggle no matter who or what, and there are some people that have more and some people that have less. Sometimes it doesn't even matter what kind of color they are, though.
Okay, last question, and because I'm doing a documentary, but this is the last question I want to ask. So do you think slavery was a good or a bad thing?
Oh no, how it was done here, it was a bad thing.
It was terrible, right?
Yes.
So what should we do then when we find out like the truth that the first 15 presidents owned slaves and they probably treated them harshly, they benefited off of their labor without paying them? How should we feel about our forefathers if our forefathers owned slaves like George Washington and the like?
Honestly, I wouldn't know where to go from that, and I think that you bringing up that very question, it leads into the right direction on what we're supposed to do, because that leads to that kind of thought and thinking, and maybe we'll come up with something with that.
Okay, cool. Thank you, brother.
No problem.
All right, have a good day. Okay, what's your name?
My name?
Well, if you don't feel like comfortable.
My name's John.
Your name's John? Okay, cool. What do you think about racism in America in 2017?
I think it's a bigger problem than most people realize.
Okay, you care to elaborate?
Okay, sure. From what I learned in school, it wasn't much of a problem, and in history class they said, oh, you know, it's so much better now, Martin Luther King and the, you know, sexual revolution, like
civil rights and all that.
Civil rights and everything, right? But if you actually, like, hear about what's going on from people who are, you know, going through these things, you know, there's a lot of injustice with all the racial shootings. There's in the prison system, there's way more people of color. There's just a lot of things like that, you know, people like, you know, who have more privilege aren't aware of.
Right. Okay, I've heard that before. If you don't mind me asking, so you're saying then, like, you know, some black people have come up with this term white privilege to kind of label or categorize what you're talking about. Do you think that that's a real thing? The fact that being white as opposed to black,
yeah, there's especially in America, there definitely is a privilege that comes along with whatever color of your skin, and which is unfortunate. It shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't have be treated any differently based on how you look, because that's not something you can really change. That's unfair.
Right, I agree. I have two more questions. One, do you have anybody in your family that or close circle of friends that you might think might be racist or show racism? You don't have to say who they are, but do you think you know anybody like that?
So I think my family is pretty progressive.
Okay.
However, I do know a lot of people from older generations tend to be more racist.
Okay.
And I think that's a product of their upbringing. It was more normal back in the 50s and the 60s and before that to be racist, and it was okay. But I think, as I've seen with my generation, as you know, everyone in my generation has been a lot less racist and more open-minded about lots of things. So I think there is some positive trends with the new generation.
Okay, last question. This is a question I thought of recently. So, would you say that slavery was good or bad in America? In America, particularly,
In America?
Was it good, or was it a good or a bad thing?
Okay, so, I mean, good or bad is like a perspective, right?
Right. It's your perspective.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So,
Do you think it was good or
when you
bad?
ask an opinionated question, like for what purpose, right?
Right.
I mean, I think that makes it a more like
Okay, I see what you're saying.
more.
Well, overall, like,
Yeah.
meaning I know that there were beneficial things for the people who benefited from that slavery, but overall, from a human perspective, was it a?
I think if you're like, if I could rephrase your question,
Yes, sir.
I'd say morally, was it wrong? I mean, hell yeah. Like, why would you ever, do that to another person? That is like inhuman, right?
Right.
Like, I guess financially, for the people who were in charge, they made a lot of money off of other people's labor. So for them, it was good. For everyone else, it was fucking shit.
Right. So more so, it was like morally it was not right, but economically it seemed.
For the people who were benefiting from it, it was good for them.
Okay. Now let me ask.
But I'm not saying that's right. That's
understandable.
That's wrong.
But for them, they might not.
But
They
I'm
might not
saying
see it
for
that way.
different people like either lost more or benefited more. So when you ask that question, like, is it good or bad? It depends on who you're asking the question to.
Okay.
And what is it good or bad for?
Okay.
I mean,
that makes sense. But now this is where I was going with the question, and I appreciate you rephrasing the question to be more specific. But if it was morally wrong and it only benefited a certain people and the other people didn't benefit at all from it, the people who were doing the work, how then should we look at our forefathers, such as George Washington and the first 15 presidents who owned slaves and benefited from the hard work of another people that they didn't pay? How should we then reevaluate if people like George Washington are as great as they said in history class?
okay, so I think there's multiple parts to this question. The first part is that when, like, for something that was considered right and okay in their time, should we judge someone in the past based on what was right and okay in their time according to their culture?
Okay.
Right? So that's one question. That's a question that historians face. The second question is, I guess that you're kind of getting at, is something that I touched on earlier, is in history, the people who write history tend to write it to show a certain perspective, to make you believe a certain way or a certain thing, right? So for example, with MLK and in schools and history, they want you to believe that it's not so much of a problem, so they cast history in that light. And one of the things that tends to be done, especially about like history in our country, is we tend to cast our forefathers in such a positive light that we like ignore their flaws, and we almost glorify them like as gods. Almost, they're like mythical, like heroes.
Right, right.
Look how great Thomas Jefferson was. Look how great George Washington was. Look how great So I think to answer your question more fully, I think yes, we should have a fairer, more like realistic picture of our forefathers' flaws, but also take into account that it's hard to judge someone based on what was right in their time period. You know what I mean?
Right. I see what you're saying.
So I think an important part to history is having empathy. So if you can understand that this is what this person thought and felt back in this time period, and to judge them from different standards, I guess. Like, I think like universally, like not having empathy for other people is wrong, and that allows you to do inhuman things when you treat people as less than you. So I think no matter what historical time period you were from, right, if you treat other people as less than you and you took advantage of them, that is wrong no matter what historical period. But I would also like to say that if you study history, slavery happened in America, but before America, there is all these different places in the world. Thousands and thousands of years ago, the Greeks had slavery, the Romans had slavery, the Spanish Empire had slavery, like the Dutch Empire had slavery. Every single empire throughout all of history has had slavery in their past.
Right.
And I think a big question for me is, why is that necessary? Or is that necessary? Like, can we change that from happening again in the future? And today, in today's world, there still is slavery across the world in different countries.
Right.
So how do we as humans sort of evolve past the need to take advantage of other human beings for our own benefit?
That's
treat them as less human.
That's very insightful. Did you think you had maybe a suggestion for that, or is it just a one answer question, or is it just a matter of greed? Is it a matter of oppressing someone because of their differences? Where I guess we have to find the root of it before we could start to decide how to do something with it.
This is just like my, I guess, my sort of answer to that, which is not going to be really as correct as maybe a historian or a scientist or a social scientist, but we're a social species, right? We live in packs, and there's a social hierarchy naturally, and one person or a group of people tends to accumulate power, and the power that they are given by the group, their responsibility is to take care of the group with that power, right?
Okay.
And to look out for everyone's best interests.
Right.
There's a problem that tends to happen, is that sometimes after getting power, people in power tend to abuse that power sometimes. And so I think an important question for me is, how do you teach everyone, right, to be responsible with power? And I think that starts at a young age in school, teaching everyone, once you have power, you have a great responsibility to take care of everyone and not to abuse it. And when you abuse it, you hurt everyone and you hurt yourself. And I think another lesson that probably should be important in schools is empathy. Empathy prevents you from taking advantage of other people. If you can really feel what they're thinking and feeling, why would you ever want to hurt someone? Because it'd be like hurting yourself.
Right.
I think empathy is a learned skill, and in schools, I think we should teach more empathy and teach responsibility, especially with power.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think it's something that we have to learn, something we have to teach, because if it's been this way throughout history, it's probably some sort of some vestige from our biology. If that makes sense.
Yeah, more like a character flaw.
So we used to have some animals used to have tails, but they don't have tails anymore.
Right.
Because it used to be useful in the past. So maybe taking advantage of other human beings was more useful in the past, when we were cavemen.
Right.
Right? Because if you weren't able to take advantage of other human being for your benefit, maybe you would die, or maybe the group would die. But maybe now in our days with all this abundance and all the technology we have, and how far our culture's progressed, I think the need to take advantage of other human beings is it's this vestige that we don't need anymore, and that really actually is harmful to everyone. We don't need it. And I think it's about learning how to deal with our biology by teaching the young, and that happens by everyone sets an example by how they act, and everyone sees that example. As you get older, more and more people look up to you, and when you're younger, you looked up to a lot of other people, right? So I think it's the responsibility of every human being, if they want to make a difference, is to have a positive example to show everyone else that looks up to them as they get older. And I think that as an individual, you can have more of an effect than you realize, because by setting up a positive example to a younger person, once they get older and they have a positive example to show to other younger people, it's exponential.
Right.
Like a tree branch.
Right.
Growing.
So really,
I think the practical answer right now is just as an individual, you can start practicing more empathy and start practicing more responsibility as a human being.
Okay, and so in summary, because that was very insightful. In summary, it seems that you're saying we should really teach the young, and to teach them not only to be responsible with the power that they gain, but to practice empathy, meaning we should be able to, regardless of skin color or cultural differences, we should be able to see somewhat of ourself in that other person.
Yes.
Because I think that's kind of a problem too, because, you know, they say, oh, they look different than us, they must be different, so therefore it's okay for us to exercise this abuse of power. So in summary, be responsible with the power and see a remnant of yourself in other people.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay, cool. Thank you, brother. All right, man. What's your name?
Matt.
Matt. All right, Matt. What do you think about racism in America in 2017?
I think it's too often.
It's too often?
Yes.
Where does it come from? Why is it here?
I don't know, man. I spent a lot of time in jail, seen it from different perspectives.
Okay.
I don't know. It's never been an issue with me.
In jail, and from what I'm told, in jail it's really segregated, like the Aryan race, the blacks, the Hispanics, right? So you've seen it from the inside perspective as well, right?
Yeah.
Do you have anybody in your family or your close circle of friends that's racist? You don't have to say who they are.
No, I'm the one exception. I'm the black sheep, I guess you call it.
Well, I mean, is anybody in your family though? Nobody that you know is racist? Okay, that's cool. How about you? You said you are. What's your name?
I'm Peyton.
Peyton. So you said you're mixed, right?
I'm black and white.
And who's
my mom is white and my dad is black, and my mom is good friends with him, the guy you talk to.
Okay.
And my dad is black. So.
So do you? What do you think about racism in America?
I really get along with both sides, but I won't lie, I do get along more with the black side. Like, all of my friends are really, like, all of them are black. Like, I have some white friends, but majority of them are black.
Do you, well, here's a question. Do you get discrimination, like, you know, because sometimes in black culture, they be like, oh, you're not black enough, or white people be like, you're not white enough.
Yeah,
do you get that?
I get that both sides. Like, oh, you're not black enough, or oh, you're not white enough. And sometimes, like, I hang out with white people and I feel like, you know, I don't really completely fit in. Or sometimes, but I'm more, like, the thing is, and I've heard this from multiple, like, mixed people, black people are more welcoming when it comes to, like, you know, but maybe that was because I was born around and raised around black people predominantly. Like, my daycare was fully black people.
And you said your mom or your dad is black?
My mom is black. I mean, my mom is white.
Your mom is white.
Black.
Was anybody in your mom's family upset or at all that she?
They love me, and like my great grandma, she always compliments me and my sister on our skin tone. Like, she's in love with our skin complexion.
So you don't have anybody in your family or a close circle of friends that's racist like that? That's good.
And my mom, she has like white friends, she has black friends. She fucks with every race, like every race.
So what do you think about racism in America in 2017? Like, because you know, I mean, it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
It's intense.
You know, cops abusing, you know, people every day or whatever, and I just feel like, you know, I feel like once white and black people just stop talking about it, it won't be a factor anymore.
So what do you say about people who tell black people, just get over it, you're over exaggerating?
Well, I'm not telling them to get over
it. No, I mean, I know you're not, but this is what I hear often. They say, I guess it's a valid claim. They say, get over it, you're exaggerating, you're making excuses, this is the slavery days.
I feel like we should keep, you know, Black History Month. We should acknowledge the fact that, you know, slavery was a thing, and like slavery was a big part of history. We should we should acknowledge that, you know, but, you know, there's some white people that are cool, you know, they love black people, like, he hang with nothing but, like, he hang with every fucking body, like, you know, there's good white people too, so I feel like, you know, like, black people, like, you know, everybody just doesn't need to be as judgmental, like, just get high, like, just chill, like, relax, like, everybody can get along, like, white people, black people, like, look at this right here, you're fully white. You're fully white, me and him are fucked up, like, I don't know about you, but, like, we're all good, you're reading the Bible and stuff, like,
I feel you.
You know, where everybody is getting along. I'm mixed. You're white, you're black. Y'all are both with me. And like, I just feel like we're all getting along and we're all happy and we're all cool. And I just feel like everybody needs to be like this. Everybody needs to be like this.
So you're saying, I guess, that goes into my last question. Is there a way to cure it or?
Everybody just needs to get along, literally. Like, just end it. Like, you know, don't get over it. We should still acknowledge it and like be taught about it and stuff, like in school and stuff. You know, I was taught about, you know, Black History Month and slavery and everything in high school, and I feel like we should still be teaching that to people, but like, you know, it's a new age, you know, like we're all happy, like we're all living, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it was in the past. You know, I feel bad for my ancestors if they were slaves and stuff like that. And like, I'm trying to do my best to just bring peace because, like, you know, God, He accepts everybody who is, you know, just
You know what I think about
forgive
this
and
shit?
forget.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Go ahead, brother.
what you say?
Now, I'm not racist at all.
Okay.
But I do feel like.
Be honest.
All right, let's take riding for example.
Take what now?
Riding.
Riding?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Over a unfortunate situation. I mean, it was an unfortunate situation. Take Baltimore,
Right.
Another state, and they shut down the highway.
Right, right.
You know, but how is looting and burning down everything in your own neighborhood? It don't make no sense.
You're talking about, like, for instance,
Like
when
the riots
if police
and stuff like
brutality happens and then the black people go riding over it?
Anything. I mean, either way. But I mean,
You know, because
You
Martin
haven't
Luther
seen
King,
an
he was
instance-
a peaceful protester. He was a very peaceful protester. And I feel like people should learn from that. I feel like people should be peaceful because Martin Luther King was dead ass peaceful.
But
like,
let me ask you this though. You know you know what happened to Martin Luther King,
he
right?
got assassinated.
So should it matter? I mean, is that really the answer? If one of our best persons
I don't
was
think they should blow up everything or like, you know, shoot up shit or like break into stores and stuff like that. But I definitely feel like we should march and we should make a stand. Like, this shit is not right. Like, black people getting killed every day from cops. Like, that shit is not right. Like, that shit is like literally just like recently, like somebody got Mr. Castro or something like that. He got killed. From
Philando Castro?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he got killed from a cop or whatever. And like that video, like when you watch the shit, like anybody can say that shit is not right. Like
Yeah.
anybody can say that shit is not right.
There's still people that justified it though. Well, maybe
and
he
it's crazy
shouldn't
because
have.
it's not fucking right. Everybody knows with the fucking brain that like that shit was not okay. You shot somebody in front of their child. That shit is not okay. Period. And I feel like policemen, like you're scared of a fucking man who tells you that he is armed. He told you he was armed and shit. Like, but if it was a white person, you wouldn't feel no type of way if they told you they were armed. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this is the white American who's armed. You know what I'm saying? Like they wouldn't think anything of it.
So do you think maybe, because for instance, okay, like say something like that happens and then we start rioting over it, right? That's not a good cause, but maybe, do you
But
think,
marching, shutting down streets, do all that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, fuck that. Fuck these people. Like, let
I mean,
them
I
do the
feel
shit.
that, but
like breaking down stores, like, okay, the owner of the fucking Walmart or the fucking, you know, gas station y'all fucking broke down, did they do anything to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, you should fuck with their shit. But
you
like,
should
at
you
the
should
same
take it to the
time,
right people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't record her. She's fucking.
Hey, I want to get the real answers, okay? How you doing today?
What are the questions?
Okay, you're already recording. What's your name?
Kimberly.
Kimberly? Okay. I'm Josh. Nice to meet you. We're just doing this documentary. And you guys, I've been filming a lot of people at different times. I'm putting together a documentary. But you got to be honest. Don't be politically correct. What do you think about racism in America, 2017?
I definitely think that racism exists.
Okay. It for sure exists. So what about the people who tell black people, oh, just get over it, you're over exaggerating, nobody's racist, you're being paranoid? Are we being paranoid by saying racism exists? Because you're admitting it, that it does exist, right?
I mean, it's not just against black people, but like other people are racist too.
Okay.
Like other cultures are racist.
Towards other cultures.
It could be religious wise, like political party wise. Like there's different racism levels.
Right. So
But do I think that the black person is oppressed? Yeah.
yes, in 2017.
I think they're oppressed.
Okay. Do you have? Be honest. You don't have to say who they are if you have. But do you have anybody in your family or your close circle of friends who you know is racist and who talks about black people as if they're lesser than? You don't have to say who they are. But do you have at least one?
I don't care if I do or not.
But do you have somebody in your family or your?
Well, my dad wasn't very happy when I got married to a black guy.
Okay.
You know, he wasn't happy. He wasn't happy that I got pregnant.
Now, why wasn't he happy, and why wasn't he happy that you got married or that you got pregnant by a black person?
There's not that many black people in South Dakota, though, so it's
Understandable.
very
But what do you think that made him unhappy about it? I mean, it's a human being, right?
It's like society says to be like against black people. And that's all my dad knew when he lived in South Dakota.
So you think he was more so following what society said? And so a question I was asking them is, as a white person, what did you do when you found out he wasn't happy that you were pregnant and stuff? How did you combat that at all, or did you just let him, speak down? Well, I mean, like, in other words, like, what did you do, and what should other white people do if they have somebody who speaks?
I didn't talk to my dad for 7 years after that.
Wow, really?
But did you care?
How did it affect you, the fact that your own father, kind of treated you like that? When because that's a good thing that you brought up. Having a kid or being pregnant is a joyous event. So how did it make you feel to where you didn't talk to him for 7 years? You had to feel some type of way.
It didn't make me happy. But I did, miss him.
Right.
And then, but that was like 7 years. But then eventually he did accept his granddaughters, and he's really good to them.
So do you think his opinion changed, or did he just?
Yeah, because he was missing out on his grandkids, so his opinion changed.
But in other words, did his opinion change for black people as a whole, or did he just accept your daughter because it's your daughter? Do you think he changed his perspective on life and the outlook on our people as in general, or was it just like, okay, well, I have to deal with it?
No, it was in people in general.
Yeah.
It was people overall, because then my brother ended up marrying a Hispanic girl, and then my brother had like 4 Hispanic kids. So my dad's
so he's
all of his grandkids are mixed now, and he does want to be a really good grandfather now, because one day you wake up and you're you just see love.
So you think that having kids, interracial kids, you think that helped open his eyes? Because that's another big topic. I did a video with some other dude, and I asked the question, can having interracial kids end racism? And I got a lot of support, but I got some backlash. People saying,
I told him how your grandma loves me and Taylor's skin complexion. Her grandma loves it, but it's funny because my grandpa,
that's my dad's mother.
Yeah,
okay.
Her dad or whatever, all of his kids had interracial kids. Like my aunt, her husband's black too, so my cousin is mixed with black and white, and then my uncle, he married a Hispanic woman, so my cousins are Hispanic and black.
So let me ask you this though, what do you say about the people who say, because this is an argument as well, we should keep our bloodline on both sides. They have this argument on black side and the white side. We should keep our bloodlines pure, and intermixing and intermingling is looked down on. Like, how do you feel about that? Is that
last Thursday wouldn't happen?
That should
it's silly.
For me, that's not even the subject, because my race is not pure, right?
Right.
No race is exactly pure.
Okay, last question, because I know you guys want to go. Where do you think? Why did it start? Because look, we both have 10 fingers.
I think it started because it was foreign. It was new. It was to the whites. Right?
Right.
The Indians.
Right.
They weren't white.
Right.
And they took over their land, but everything was new, so they were savages.
So it was. So
they had the manpower and the ability to take it.
So is that justified?
No, I'm not saying it's justified. But you asked why do I think it started? I think that's why it started.
So it was wrong though. You would do agree that it was wrong, and so then it's wrong for people to continue it, like the people who were in the KKK or whatever, on both sides.
But there's also where they sold the slaves over in Africa, because they were from the losing tribes, so they sold them here, right?
Like nuclear weapons and shit, right?
Right.
So we got more of them, right? So all these little small countries, we have the ability to manhandle it.
Okay.
As a country, I'm just saying, and I think that was,
So last question, just before y'all go. All right, let me ask you this last question. Now, you do.
Let me see what I look like first.
Yeah, no, you look good. You look good. I promise. You're not gonna be able to tell because it's not. You can't flip it around while it's recording. I'll show you when we're done. But the last thing is, do we have a way to change it? Is there a way? Is it even reasonable, or is it even realistic to think that we could change it? Because look, we got smartphones, we got flat screen TVs and hoverboards and helicopters, but we're still tripping off of the color of our skin. Why can't?
I don't think me and my friends trip off the color of skin.
But the country does. How do we get over it as a country? Because I mean, I wish everybody was as cool as like this, but how do we get over it as a country? As you know, because America is the most racist place in the world. So how do we get over it as a country, or is that not even realistic at all?
Well, I think that they need to legalize pot, and then
Legalize pot. That's a good start. Okay.
Hey, speaking of pot, why don't you get something from the apartment?
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Okay.